Hey everybody, how are you doing today? So I just wrapped up episode 14 with Thane Ringler. Now, if you don't know who Thane is, you're going to be so glad that I've introduced you to him. He is a former PGA pro, and now he is a coach. He has a great podcast, and he's helping people really get to the next level. We had this amazing conversation about living intentionally and finding your grit. So I want to give you the highlights of the interview. Oh, and also he has an awesome book. It's called From Here to There, a 25-year perspective. Oh, am I saying that right? I have to look at my notes. From Here to There, a quarter life perspective on the path to mastery. You guys are going to love this interview. He is so down to earth, so grounded, and he shares just so openly the things that he's discovered that led to success and how he helps others become successful. It's really awesome. So one of the takeaways was taking ownership and how taking ownership for yourself and your choices, it really is the harder path. I know as humans, we really like to resist what's hard, what doesn't feel good, right? This is pretty cool. If you take ownership, you're actually going to grow as a person, and I believe it does help you get to the next level. Another really great takeaway was finding your grit factor, and he shared how he found his in his gratitude practices and in his drive. He's a very driven and competitive individual, but he found his grit factor between gratitude and his drive, which is really, really interesting. Another thing that we talked about is self-acceptance. Now, you probably know self-acceptance is kind of a hard thing. It doesn't matter if you're a guy or a girl. It doesn't matter if you're a stay-at-home parent and your spouse is in the corporate world. What if you're a college student? Accepting who you are and where you are is not always easy, but we talked about owning our individual strengths, and that's really important. Owning your individual strength. It's a different way to look at things than you'll hear people say, like owning your weaknesses. It's completely different when you're really owning your strengths. I have a personal belief that you should focus on your strengths and develop them, rather than working on things that you really, really struggle with. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a time and a place for developing some of the areas that you struggle in, but there's a difference between your strengths and then your weaknesses. If you're focusing on those weaknesses and you're trying to develop them, you could be missing out on getting tractions from developing your strengths and becoming so much more polished and getting to the next level with those core strengths that you have. Because let's face it, everybody's wired different. We each have unique talents, and where you have a strength, I may not, and vice versa. So you want to harness your strengths and become excellent. So let's see, what else did he share that was so good to me? Oh, we talked about what you attach to your identity. That is a big deal. Have you noticed on social media how many people don't seem to know who they are? It's like a proverbial identity crisis is going on. No matter who you are, people are struggling with self-worth issues, and some of that comes from attaching certain things to your identity. So Thane unpacks that. You guys are going to love that point. Another thing that we talked about was being faithful with what you have where you are. Last year, I led a masterclass called Faithful Lady Boss. And we talked a lot about being faithful where you are with what you have. You see, we're always wanting to climb the ladder and get higher and higher. But when we're not faithful with the things that have been entrusted to us, we don't develop some of the character, some of the life lessons, life skills that we need to carry so that we get to these next levels. In the faith community, some people will call it, being in the wilderness, that type of thing. So if you feel like you're in the wilderness, or you're struggling and you can't quite figure out what you're missing, maybe it's because you just need to be in this time right now of really being a good steward of where you are. I came out of a time where I was really struggling in my career. I was not using my skills to my best ability that I could have. And it's kind of a long story. It's not really for here, but just to give you a snippet was that I needed to be right where I was because there were some lessons I needed to learn before I could go to that next level. So that could be you as well. We talked about how fear is like fire. If you haven't heard how fear is like fire, you are going to love this. I had never heard it before, and I really love it. And then, of course, we talked about living intentionally and choosing to take a step. It's so good, you guys. So episode 14, it is live. It's on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, public radio. I think it's on radio.com now also. You can catch it on my website, SharonHughes.net. I'm going to have the link below here that will go to my website so you can listen to it there if you would like. But I'd love for you to subscribe and leave a review. And for sure, share it. It's some good stuff. And you can binge. I have 14 episodes out. I think my show's pretty darn binge-worthy. It's always mindset, faith, and leadership. So if those things are of interest to you, I've got you, boo. All right. Until next time, you have an awesome week. And I'll have another episode for you next Wednesday. Bye for now.